Madness at the Darkmoon Faire is coming soon, so that means it's time to review some cards. But before I begin, I want to give a quick refresher on the rating system. First up, we have the overall card quality, which is how good I think the card is in a vacuum. And then we have the meta rating, which is how good I think it'll be next expansion. So a card that is overall a good card, but doesn't really fit in with the decks of the meta, might get a good card quality rating, but a low meta score. Anyway, with all that out of the way, we have Fel Screen Blast. This is a 1-mana spell with lifesteal, deal 1 damage to a minion and its neighbors. I think this card is actually pretty good. It reminds me of Shooting Star back in Boomsday, and that was run in a deck that had spell damage. On its own, it wasn't a very good card. This is slightly better. You know, it has lifesteal, so you'll also heal for 3 if it affects 3 targets. But I think it still needs that spell damage to see play, personally. I think there's the 2 decks that I see being popular in the next meta is the Soul Demon Hunter that we already have, and I think Aggro Demon Hunter will probably actually be the best deck for a couple reasons. But I think there might be a spell damage archetype. It's hard to say, so I think I'm going to give this card an overall card quality of a 3 and then a meta rating of a 2. I think it's actually a decent card, and it does synergize with the card later on, Ilgonnath, but I'm just not sure it's good enough. But it could work. This is one I see that could work. Next up, we have Throw Glaive. This is a 1-mana spell, deal 2 damage to a minion, and if it dies, add a temporary copy of this card to your hand. This is kind of like Echo, except it's a conditional effect. So, you know, if you kill a 3/2 with this, you get it back and you can kill another 3/2. I think this is actually very, very flexible. You know, it's not hard to imagine having a couple minions on board because you're a pretty aggressive tempo-oriented class, and you use those minions to kind of trade and then have Throw Glaive to finish it off. And it kind of fits in where it fits in. This also does synergize with spell damage again, so, you know, maybe we see a spell damage package kind of work. I could also see Moarg Artificer, I think it's called, the 2/4 that doubles spell damage. Maybe being good in Demon Hunter, you know, it is a demon, there might be some synergies there. It also makes cards like this and Fel Screen Blast better. It's hard to say, but I think on its own, Throw Glaive is good enough to just run without any spell damage. And I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5 in overall card quality and a 4 out of 5 in meta rating. It's a very solid card. Moving along, we have Redeemedariah. This is a 2-mana 2/3. After you play an Outcast card, gain +1/+1. I think this card is solid. A 2-mana 2/3 is a pretty standard good stat line. Makes it a bit sticky. But I think a lot of people are overrating this card. My main reason is just there aren't that many Outcast cards. I think if this was, for example, every time you play a card, gain +1/+1, this would be insane. But a lot of the Outcast cards are more situational. You might not necessarily be running them. I think the question is, would you start running certain cards like the 1-mana 1/1 that draws a card if it's Outcast? I can't remember the name. Would you run stuff like that to support this? Maybe, but I'm moving on the side of no. I think it's just okay. It could be really good. I could be wrong, but I'm gonna not hedge my bets. I'm gonna guess that it's actually bad and people are overrating it. I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 5 in terms of overall card quality, because if we got more Outcast cards, it would be good for sure. But I think it's going to be a 2 out of 5 meta rating. I think people are going to try this in the aggro deck, and it's not going to work. Moving along, we have Acrobatics. This is not an overrated card. I think this card is insane. It's a 3-mana, draw 2 cards. If you play both this turn, draw 2 more. So why is this so good? Well, for starters, Arcane Intellect is a card that we've seen in Mage for so long. It's just 3-mana, draw 2. And while I'm not sure that would be run in Demon Hunter, you know, we have the 2-mana draw 2 Outcast card, and that doesn't necessarily see play. This card has the upside of sometimes it's 3-mana draw 4, and it's only 3-mana draw 4 if you're able to play both cards this turn. But guess what? Demon Hunter has really cheap cards. If you look at a lot of the mana costs for the cards that I'm reviewing in this set alone, a lot of them cost less than 3, they're 1 or 2. So you could very easily see an aggro deck that's almost finish off its opponent. They play this, they get stuff like Twin Slice, you know, maybe a Throw Glaive. They play those extra cards, and then they draw 2 additional cards, and it's just their reload. It's like a redundancy with Skull of Gul'dan, but it's also good on its own, and at worst, it's an Arcane Intellect, and Arcane Intellect is a good card. So I think I'm going to give this an overall card quality of a 5. This could be nerfed. It's very, very strong, and a meta rating of 5 as well. I think this will be in the aggro deck, and I think it'll probably be in the Soul Demon Hunter deck, and one of those will for sure be tier 1. Moving along, we have Dreadlords Bite. This is a 3-mana weapon, 3-mana 3/2, so like a Fiery War Axe, with Outcast, deal 1 damage to all enemies. It's a pretty solid effect. You know, it's a tempo-oriented effect. If you have a couple minions on board, you play this, you kind of maybe clear your opponent's board, keep your own minions, keep that tempo going. I could see this in an aggro Demon Hunter. I don't think we see this in the Soul Demon Hunter. The only problem is that there are a lot of weapons in Demon Hunter right now. I think the kind of weapon slots are sort of competitive. So I'm going to give this a 3 out of 5 and a 3 out of 5 in meta rating, as I think this might be a sometimes card in the aggro deck. Like maybe you run this because it's pretty good, but it's not amazing. But if it didn't end up that way, I wouldn't be too surprised. Moving along, we have Line Hopper. Your outcast cards cost 1 less. It's a 3 mana 3/4. Once again, solid stat line, reminds me of the Redeemedariah, but this is an even weaker effect. Again, we talked before about how there aren't actually that many outcast cards. This is even less impactful to me. It's a 3 mana 3/4. Sure, there's okay stats, although no one's like running a vanilla 3 mana 3/4. And then like it makes your outcast cards a bit cheaper. So does that mean you run the 1 mana 1/1? Like I guess I'm just not really seeing it. I know some people have been hyping up this card, but I think this is a bait basically. You look at it, you think, oh, it's a Spire tank with an upside, but the upside is kind of situational. A lot of times, like discounting Skull of Gul'dan to 5 is not worth running a kind of crappy 3/4. I don't think it's very good. I'm gonna say it's a 2 out of 5 in card quality, as it's not terrible, but it's a 1 out of 5 in meta rating. I don't think it's good. Speaking of cards that are not good, Relentless Pursuit. It's a 3 mana spell. Give your hero +4 attack and immune this turn. This card is just really bad. If you compare it to Twin Slice is 2 mana for +4, and yeah, you don't get the immune, but you get way more flexibility. It can be a 1 mana card. It can be, you know, a 2 mana spell basically. I think this costs too much. It also compares very poorly to, I think it's called Chaos Strike, the 2 mana spell where you draw a card and get +2 attack. I'd much rather draw a card and spend 1 less mana for 2 less attack and immune. Like, immune is just not that great of an effect. Demon Hunter already has a ton of healing, and it doesn't need immune that badly. So I just think this is a clear 1. It's a 1 out of 5 in both categories. Next up, we have Insatiable Fel Hound. I think this is the first Corrupt card that I've showed so far. For those who aren't aware, Corrupt works like this. If you have the Insatiable Fel Hound in your hand, and you play a 4 cost or higher card, so 1 more than the mana cost, it will corrupt it into this minion, the 3 mana 3/6 with Lifesteal and Taunt. Or wait, no, it always had Taunt, but it got +1/+1 and Lifesteal. So on its own, a 3 mana 3/6 Taunt Lifesteal, that's a really solid minion. But again, if you've been paying attention to a lot of the mana costs of these cards, Demon Hunter actually doesn't have that many cards that are that much more expensive than 3. And this basically means you have to play it on 5 if you want to get the upside. And a 3 mana 3/6 Lifesteal Taunt, like, it's not that amazing. Like, it's not like, oh great, we play this on 5 and then we do something else for like 2 mana or 1 mana or whatever. It's just kind of fair. It seems underwhelming compared to some of the OP cards that Demon Hunter has. Like, there's a lot of competitive cards in Demon Hunter, so I'm gonna give this a 2 out of 5 in card quality and a 1 out of 5 in meta rating. I just don't think they need healing that badly. I don't think they need a 3/6 that badly, and their cards cost too much. Moving along, we have Fel Steel Executioner. This is another card that I think suffers a bit from the competitive cards in Demon Hunter. I think this is actually pretty solid. On its own, it's a 3 mana 4/3, but if you play a 4 cost or more, it becomes a 3 mana 4/3 weapon. Now, a 3 mana 4/3 weapon is straight up great. It's very, very solid. It's 12 damage on a single card, and a 4/3 is not that bad either. It's not something you would ever run on its own, but you don't feel terrible in an aggressive tempo deck. I think the problem is that you already are running other weapons. You know, you're running the 4 mana 4/2 weapon that gives you the soul shards. You're running just stuff that like sort of fills this role already. So for 1 more mana, you get the kind of Demon Hunter Soul synergy versus this, which you have to play a 4 mana card. There aren't that many 4 mana cards that you're running besides that weapon that basically serves this purpose already, or like Sociologist Militia or whatever. You know, it just seems a bit slow. I could see it in the aggro deck because, again, it is 12 damage from a single card, but it feels kind of situational, and there's competitive slots. So this is one of those cards where I think it is like a 3 out of 5 maybe card quality. I think if this was just the card on its own without Corrupt, this was just how it was, it would be played in every deck. It's amazing. But the Corrupt makes it kind of slow, and then there's already other weapons that aren't as conditional. So yeah, 3 out of 5 for card quality, and I think a 2 out of 5 in meta rating. I think people will experiment with this. It's a good card, and they'll just think, but it's not as good as the other cards I want to run already. Moving along, we have Zai the Incredible. This is a 5 and a 5/3 with a battle cry. Copy the left and rightmost cards in your hand. This is one of the more expensive cards in Demon Hunter, and yet I think it is very, very good for a couple reasons. First of all, Demon Hunter cards are good, so when you copy them, you're generally getting really good cards. A lot of Demon Hunter cards can be cheap or expensive, but imagine getting another Sociologist Amnesia. Imagine getting extra Twin Slices. Like, there's so many examples of cards where you're like, damn, like another 3-mana 3/2 lifesteal weapon. That's really, really good, which is another thing that Fel Steel Executioner competes with, by the way. I think this is just like decent late game refuel. 5 and a 5/3 is not a terrible stat line if you draw 2 good cards. You can also control the cards that you're getting. So, it reminds me a bit of that Elise card in Druid, the 5 and a 5/5, but the conditions are easier to meet. There's basically, you just need to, you can play it at any time, and then if you want to get specific cards, you have to kind of control your hand. So I think it's very good. I think it's a 4 out of 5 in both categories. I think you're going to see this deck somewhere. I would probably guess the Soul Demon Hunter. I think that's where it fits most, but it's a very solid card. Speaking of solid cards, we have Bladed Lady. This is a 6 mana 6/6 rush, but it costs 1 if your hero has 6 or more attack. This is a very strong card. A lot of people have been hyping this up. I think the hype is mostly justified. You get a lot for very little. It's not that hard to have 6 attack in Demon Hunter. You just play the 4 mana 4/2 weapon and a Twin Slice, and all of a sudden this costs 1. It's not that crazy. There's a lot of weapons in Demon Hunter. I think you're going to want to run this. You're going to be playing against it at times where they get it out on turn 3 or turn 4, and you're going to be feeling really frustrated. And this is a very good card. I don't think it's going to be so good that it's nerfed. I think some people are hyping it a bit too much, but even still, I would give it a 4 out of 5 in card quality and a 5 out of 5 meta rating because I think that Demon Hunter will still have a tier 1 deck, and this will be in a Demon Hunter deck for sure. Here's another card, a Stilt Stepper. This is a 3 mana 4/1. Draw a card. If you play it this turn, give your hero +4 attack this turn. This card, some people have mixed opinions on. I think it's very good. It's, a 3 mana 4/1, which on its own, it's not very sticky, but it does draw you a card, and in a lot of situations, you're going to get the +4 attack this turn, and then it becomes a 4 attack that you can use to attack your opponent, drawing a card, and getting a 4/1 that's probably going to deal 4 damage in some way. Or, like most of the time, the way they ping it off isn't going to be like a mage hero power. It's going to be trading a minion or, attacking it or something. So I look at the card and think a lot of times this is 3 mana, deal 4 damage, maybe 8 damage, and draw a card. And I think that's very good. I think Demon Hunter has very cheap cards generally, so it's pretty easy to draw a card and play it on the turn. And then if you play a 3 mana 4/1 draw card just on curve because you have nothing better to do, it's not terrible. Like, it's really not terrible. It's not the kind of thing where you feel so bad. I think one way to look at it is for 2 mana, Novice Engineer is a 1/1 where you draw a card, and this is for 1 extra mana you get +4 attack and potentially +3 attack on the minion. Excuse me, and potentially 4 attack as well. So I think it's just a strong card. Of course, Demon Hunter isn't running Novice Engineer, but I think they would run something like this. So this is a 4 out of 5 in card quality and a 5 out of 5 in meta rating. Next up, we have, I think, the most broken card in Demon Hunter outside of Acrobatics. It's Ilgonnath. It's a 4 mana 2/6 lifesteal. Your lifesteal damages the enemy hero instead of healing you. Why do I think this is so strong? Well, there's the whole Morag Artificer angle where you could use Fel Screen Blast and other stuff like that. The 3 mana lifesteal that becomes 1 on the edge of your hand. I'm forgetting what it's called. Where you could use those to deal a lot of damage to your opponent. I also think this is just good with Alderachi Warblades, where you have a 3 mana 2/2 weapon, and then now that makes it a 3 mana 4/2 weapon whenever you attack the opponent, because you do twice as much damage. And very often in Soul Demon Hunter, you attack your opponent for 8 or 9 with Alderachi Warblades to heal a lot and burst them down. You have the 5 and a 5/5 Soul Shard Lapidary, I think it's called, where you get the +5 attack. Imagine +5 attack with the Alderachi Warblades, and instead of dealing 7, you'll deal 14, and all you had to do was play Ilgonnath, which is already a pretty solid body, and has lifesteal itself, so it's going to be dealing damage. Like, if it trades with a minion, it'll deal 2 damage to your enemy. Like, that's just so good. It actually seems really, really, really strong to me. There could be an OTK deck out of this. It could just be like a really solid top end for the tempo. I think it's definitely going to be in Soul Demon Hunter. I think it's very likely going to be an aggro, and I think it might even make some kind of spell damage OTK deck. It's a 5 out of 5 across the board. Amazing card. Moving along, we have Renowned Performer. This is a 4-mana 3/3 rush that summons 2 1/1 assistants with Taunt. This card is pretty good. Again, Demon Hunter has a lot of very solid cards. It does remind me of Flanking Strike, which was a card where you dealt 3 damage to a minion and you summoned a 3/3 wolf. In this case, you get Rush, so you can't attack behind taunts, but you deal 3 damage to a minion, and then you get 2 1/1 taunts, so you get a 2/2 instead of a 3/3, but it's spread across 2 bodies, and it's defensive. Does Demon Hunter need that defense? I don't know. Maybe not. I don't think so. And for that reason, I think it's a 3 out of 5 in card quality. It's actually pretty strong, but a 2 out of 5 meta rating, just because I don't think Demon Hunter needs this, but many other classes would like this. Last but not least, we have Expendable Performers. This is a 7-mana card that summons 7 1/1 Illidari with Rush. If they all die this turn, summon 7 more. For some additional context, if, for example, you have 2 minions on the board and this summons 5 minions, if they all die, you will still get the effect. It's not like you need an empty board and it has to specifically be 7. It just summons as many slots as you have on the board. This could be really good with that 3-mana card that deals damage for every time your minion dies. I don't think that's going to be good. Like, it fits the token strategy a bit, but I think this is going to be overall like a pretty decent card, a 3 out of 5 in card quality, but a 1 out of 5 meta rating. I don't think this is going to be a good deck. Anyway, that's all for the Demon Hunter cards. Next up, we're going to be doing Druid Hunter and so much more. So if you liked this video, please consider subscribing. I'm going to be doing lots more Hearthstone content in the future, and thanks so much for watching.